Hello, and welcome to this tips and tricks video where we will illustrate a new feature at version 2024 R1 whereby the user can open Mechanical independently of the project page. So this is a change in functionality, and it offers some advantages of running Mechanical directly without having to first launch the Workbench project layout. Now, keep in mind it is still possible to run Workbench, so if you are an existing user and are familiar and comfortable with working through the Workbench layout, that is still possible. However, this is a new feature that will launch Mechanical directly from the Start menu. There are some advantages and disadvantages of those, and we'll try to highlight them in this tips and tricks video. So when 2024 R1 is installed, we'll see in the Start menu, there is a Mechanical 2024 R1 shortcut that's directly there. And this will bring up kind of a start or a splash screen. And I have a previous project already created, so I can see that I can open up a recent one. The first time upon launching this, you'll see these options here on the right under the Get Started section. So we can open a project if we have one that we've already created. We can import geometry. If we know what geometry we would like to start with Mechanical with, we can go ahead and select that directly, or we can start a Mechanical project. I'm going to go ahead and do the blank one, and we'll just start up Mechanical kind of in a blank session. So no geometry will be loaded in. The project page will also not be loaded. And as you can see, this is fairly quick. So we come into Mechanical and we have a typical Mechanical session. It's important to note whether you start Mechanical through the Workbench project page or independently, the behavior and the workflow in Mechanical is going to be, for the most part, identical. It's the same application that's running. So at this point, we could go ahead and add geometry. We can specify mesh controls. There's no analysis system currently loaded, and that can just simply be chosen from the analysis system drop down. So again, once Mechanical is open, the functionality is going to work, for the most part, the same. Now, I do want to highlight a little bit about file management. Because we're not running off of the project page, there's going to be some differences in file management. When I go ahead and save the model, it wants to save it with an extension MECDB. So this stands for the Mechanical Database. So this is kind of similar to previous versions where we would have a MECDB file, but that file would kind of be buried in the project structure, and what the user is typically working with is a Workbench project file or a WBPJ file. So here we're kind of saving the standalone Mechanical database. Now I want to go ahead, and I've got a model that has already been set up and solved and saved. I just want to bounce over to that. We've got this simple model here on screen. It's also called project.mecdb. And if we go ahead and look at the location where that file is saved, you'll see we have a folder that I called project. And within here, we have a similar but different to prior versions when running it independently. We have our mech database file, and this will typically could be a fairly sizable file because this will contain things like the mesh and the geometry, any results that have been added and inserted into Mechanical will be saved into this database file. So this is a binary file. This will have some size. Now, there's also a subfolder similar to prior versions when running Workbench. We do have a subfolder, and within here we'll have various analysis systems and user files and other files that are generated during the solve and so on and so forth. So in the static structure that I've created, I have my result file, my output file, and so on. Error files, log files, those would be all written into this location. So in a similar kind of vein as previous versions, if we were to want to move this project to a new computer and continue to do post-processing, we would want to transfer not only the MECDB file, we would also want to transfer the mech files folder. If the underscore mech files folder is not transferred, we'll still have the Mechanical database. We just won't have any of those additional solution files that are available. So if we go back into Mechanical at this point, the one kind of difference in this launching it independently is, as you're probably familiar, we define material properties at the project page level. And because we don't have a project page in this case, in this sense, there's no way to define materials within this session. So this is one difference. We would have to either work from materials that are in one of the existing libraries or reference our own material library if we have one. And that can be done by importing materials and then choosing an XML file. If you have access to ANSYS Granta, for example, we could choose a material, directly from that database. For example, an aluminum 6061. So because launching Mechanical independently from the project page, we don't have access to the typical engineering data where we would define new materials. So in this workflow, we would have to either import from an existing material database or point to one that we may have on our computer. So thanks for watching this tips and tricks video on a new feature at 2024 R1 where the users can launch Mechanical directly from the start menu, and this allows them to bypass the project page and go straight into Mechanical.